Or
I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for coming to Rebecca's Meet the Mentor. I've been part of Mastrius probably for 2.5 years now, and a navigator for 1.5 years, which means I help just facilitate the meetings. And I'm lucky enough to be Rebecca's navigator for her sessions, which are starting November 20th at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is, well, I think we changed time. It's going to be 7 UK time, I believe, when we start. It's 6 p.m. right now. But yeah, so I'll sort that all out though, and put the correct times if you're in the group right now. And there's lots of room left. We got 4 members. There's room for 4 more to join. The more, the merrier. And yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca to introduce herself, and then we will play a video, a tour of her studio. And then hopefully we have time for 1 or 2 small demos. And then at the end, any and all questions are welcome. So Rebecca, I'm going to spotlight you. There we go.
Okay, so yes, no, I know this is called Meet the Mentor. Let me just, I've got something that's popped up there. Let me just get rid of that. And I know some of you.
I have a question. Should we keep our cameras off? Is it does it matter? I mean, does it take too much? Is it better for if just Rebecca is having or somebody who is talking? Should we, or is it okay if we just have our cameras on?
Oh, it's up to you. If we have no noise in the background, you can leave your speaker on while we have the meeting. It's all good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
I don't know if Leslie's coming or.
Oh, okay. So yeah, what was I going to say? Yes. So I know this is called Meet the Mentor, and I know some of you have met me already. So apologies to those of you who have met me already, because you're going to know some of the things I'm going to say, and you're going to have seen some of the things I'm going to show you. But I also am introducing myself to everybody else as well. So, so for those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Rebecca. I live in the southwest of England, because I know some of you are from not just from England. I live with my husband, and we have got 3 grown-up children who've now left home. Couldn't get away quick enough, but there you go. I trained originally as a theatre designer, not because I wanted to be a theatre designer, but because I wanted to learn lots of skills, and I wanted to learn how to do a lot of different things, but I also wanted to get a job in the arts. And work in the arts in some way, which I have managed to do, despite that many people who said that wasn't going to happen. And I've done lots of things before I became a pastel artist in theatre design, interior design, that range from technical drawing and making tiny little models to making huge props and painting massive scenery. I've designed furniture, done illustration. I literally had a ball for about 10 years while I was just doing all these different freelance jobs. And I started painting between jobs when I had little gaps, because when you work freelance, you often have gaps between jobs. And basically, I tried lots of different media, and then I fell in love with pastels when I found them, because I think basically I'm a drawer rather than a painter. And with pastels, I can just draw with colour. And I love calling them paintings, because I think actually I'm not really a painter. But I just think it is a phenomenally versatile medium, and hopefully I'm going to show you the different ways I use them tonight. I do a lot of subject matter, although I've just got horses and landscape showing here, and that's tending to be what's going on at the moment in my studio. I do street scenes, and I've done quite a few portraits, and I also do still life. So I was doing still life this afternoon. But basically, I love to learn how to do things, and I love sharing what I'm learning with other people. So I've been teaching for about 15 or 20 years, but I'm really excited about this mentoring thing, because it's a way of sharing what I do, but helping other people to develop their work as well. And that's one of the things that often you don't get the chance to do when you're just teaching, is actually to follow up what happens next with people. So we often get people who come on a course and then we don't see them for a year, or I do my Zoom sessions and I get the chance to see everybody's work on the Facebook group. But it's going to be really, really lovely to help people on their journey, because we're all on our own journey. And I'm hoping that I'm going to actually, I'm already setting tasks for myself to do as part of the kind of group setting. So that was me trying to introduce myself quickly. So but it's quite a long story really, because I've been doing this for a long time. So Anita, do you want to play the video now?
I sure can, yes.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Hello, so I'm Rebecca, and I just thought you might like to have a bit of a tour of my studio, which is the conservatory to our house where we live in Devon in the southwest of England. So I'm just going to show you a few of the things I've got on the go at the moment and my setup. Well, I'm not going to show you all of the studio because there's a lot of mess hidden behind me, but basically this is my setup. I work at an easel. Sometimes I stand, sometimes I perch. This is a picture I'm working on at the moment based on Dartmoor, the local landscape where I live, which I just love the changes of height and the brightness of the light. And these are the pastels on the actual table. This box is the one I'm working from. I use an iPad to work from, but I've always got additional photos as well. I tend to have a frame that I put things in to check what they look like. This is some of the work this is all work in progress at the moment. This is my view outside, which really helps when I'm doing skies and trying to get a feel for the landscape, because although this is not the landscape that I'm painting here, we're only an hour's drive away, and can you see some of the colours? The colours that you can see there are the colours that I'm trying to capture here. This is my bag that I grab, which has got pastels in it for going out sketching. And I have my pastels stored here. I've just had the most epic clean, which you can see, but I've also got in my drawers quite a few backups. I won't show you all of the drawers. The little sweetie jars have got the little ends that I either haven't got room for or I will grind down. Up here I've got some of the work I do on plein air. I just put them up there to remind me. And there's a variety of things out here. So here we've got some charcoal sketches I'm doing that are in progress of horses moving, inspired by my trip to the Camargue in the south of France. Here I've got just some colour experiments I'm doing because I'm trying to get a little bit more brightness into my work. So you can see I've just started on the top left and kind of just trying out different colourways and seeing how I can get the paintings to jump off the page. This is another one I've got in progress at the moment from the same place as this, therefore a commission. And I've got some bigger horse pieces on the go here. That the Frisian is pretty much finished, but the others are on the go. There's a lot on the go. And just to show you my table, which is where I've just set this up to show you how I do my my online workshops. So this is set up with a phone as the camera overhead and all materials. This is what I'm going to be doing next Monday, Autumn on the Moor, and trying to avoid showing you the mess. I've just got a little painting area on the floor here. This isn't normally out, but I've just put it out to show you. This is where I prime up the boards that I then paint on. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that. Now I'm going to get some pastels out and show you how I actually use them. Okay, so thank you, Anita. It was a bit quiet, wasn't it? But never mind. I hope you got the gist. I should say that I filmed that in the day because it's dark now. I wanted you to see how lovely it is when I can look out and see my view. And also because there's a storm forecast tonight and I didn't want to be in there when there was howling gale and pouring rain. So yeah, so Anita, do you want to spotlight? Yeah, brilliant, my work table. Oh, hang on a minute, I'm in the wrong. Let me just speak view. Right, brilliant. Okay, and let me just move this light slightly so that I try not to have that shadow. Believe me, I've got so many lights here. It's like it's a wonder the national grid isn't actually failing or exploding because of what's going on here. So, what I wanted to show you was first of all my toolkit, and then how I use that for my animal work. Because I use more than one type of pastel, particularly when I'm doing my animal work. When I do my landscape work, I tend to just use these pastels, which are Unison colour pastels, which I know if you guys that are across the Atlantic, you have lots of lovely pastels that you can get that are made over there. But here, Unison are our kind of best quality brand that is made in this country. So starting with putting my scarf out of the way. So I've got different grades of softness here. I've got my Unison ones, which and I should say I'm just doing this on a bit of sugar paper. These are very, very just beautiful and creamy. They're made with natural pigments and they have got a lot of pigment in them. They really pack a punch when it comes to the amount of pigment, which is a good thing, but can also be something that makes your life difficult. So you can see they're not that brilliant for getting a really fine edge. You have to be quite kind of crafty to get a fine edge out of them. So I also used Conte crayons, which I think are called Conte Carré crayons. These are half sticks, so I snap everything in half. These are harder than the softer pastels, and because they're harder, you can get a sharper edge to them. But because they're because they're in a stick form, you can still get these different types of marks. So I also use, just moving along quickly, I also use pastel pencils for my animal work, which again are lovely, fabulous for detail. But you can't make this really dramatic mark with them that's big and weighty there and then tapers off and gets finer here. And I want that sort of mark if I'm doing kind of like horses' manes or just trying to get some life and movement into my work. I don't just want a single line. The other disadvantage with the, I'm just putting a bit on here so that I can show you what happens. The other disadvantage of relying on pastel pencils too much for detail is they're not terribly keen on going over some already a kind of layer of soft pastel that I've got on already. So if I want to get a really sharp highlight, which I am going to show you in a minute, I kind of need to get my softer ones out again. But what I do is I break them into these, can you see that? I break them into these little shards. And then I've got a really sharp edge. You don't need a point, you just need an edge. The other thing that I have been using a little bit lately is, the only one I've got brought in here is, it's not really showing up very well, is it? These are pan pastels. They're like powder form of the pastel itself. And you can put them on with a variety of sponges or applicators or your fingers or tissue, whatever you want to use. And I have started using these as a kind of base for some of my horse paintings, because if you imagine you want to do a really kind of like a thoroughbred that's got really, really fine hair, it's difficult to get that fineness when you've got this kind of mark of the texture of the pastel. So that's the toolkit. Oh yeah, I forgot, there's something else I forgot actually. I'm not very good memory wise. Charcoal is just a gift to anybody who wants to do anything to do with animals, to be honest, but also lots of other things. You can see it's made of burnt wood. It's not got pigment in it, and look how beautifully it rubs out. That's a very useful thing to have in your toolkit, which hopefully I'm going to find you. I'm going to show you. I'm now going to do a lot of moving about at speed. But what I wanted to do was just show you how I do a little bit of an eye. I'm just going to come down a bit, hoping that I'm not going to bash my phone, because it doesn't like being bashed. And this is from this is in my book, which I was showing people earlier, but not as a kind of not as a proper demo, because I know some of you have seen this before, but actually it's a really, really brilliant one for showing how you can use, or how I use, all the different types of pastels. The reason I'm waving a scalpel around is because that's what I sharpen my my pastel pencils with. So when I'm just going to do a little bit of it to show you that basically what I'm trying to do with this whole kind of range of my toolkit is use everything to play to its strengths. So I tend to use, I've just given myself a little bit of a start with this. So when I should say my photo that I'm using as reference was taken by one of my students called Teresa Grant, who takes wonderful photos of animals, and I don't think this was her dog. I think it was a friend's dog. She said that I could use it for teaching purposes. I think it's really important to I can't think what the word is, to acknowledge the photographer, because without her this picture wouldn't exist at all. So what I'm doing when I'm drawing out my eye is I'm not just drawing the eye, I'm thinking about how it is set in that it's in the socket, isn't it? The skull socket of the dog, and it's like a marble. So all the time I'm kind of sketching it, I'm thinking of that, the form. So that's my charcoal to draw out. And you might think that's messy, but the reason I draw out in charcoal is because it's great for it's great if I have to rub it out, basically. I know I sound like I'm a nervous wreck, which actually I am very wary when I'm working. I'm very kind of tentative, because if you're doing animal work, it kind of has to be right. If you're drawing a landscape, it doesn't really matter if the rock's in the wrong place or it's not that shape. But if you are drawing an animal, it kind of really needs to have its eyes in the right place and its legs the right length. Otherwise, it's going to look really weird. So I've got some browns on this eye, but I need something really bright, because I don't know whether you remember when you were a child and you looked into like an animal's eye, and it was like looking into a marble, when the light shines and it kind of feels like it's glowing from within. So I'm just putting a bit of really bright orange. This is look like it's a really bright orange, but without it, I won't get that kind of strength. And now I'm coming in with quite a dark brown. And I'm using, even though this is like a really kind of delicate bit, I'm using these bright, these chunky pigmented bits of pastel, because I need the strength of colour for them. And now I need to get the feeling that it's a ball in the sockets. So I need to put some shadow around it. And to do the shadow, which again, with animal work, I don't use a black, but with with my landscape work, I don't use a black, but I do with my animal work. So I've got two blacks here. I haven't got a soft black pastel because it gets too messy and I end up basically looking like a chimney sweep. I've got two here. I've got my black Faber-Castell Pit Pastel pencil, and I've got my black Conte crayon, which is it's a stronger, kind of slightly more waxy feel than the other Conte crayons. So it's really, really good. It's like my secret weapon for my detail of my animal work. Right, I'm just trying to get a bit of a feeling of it being round. And I want to get some of the feeling of the dog's fur in as well. But again, I'm going to use a combination of my Conte crayons and my softer pastels to just get a bit of a base down, because this is quite a textured surface I'm working on, and it with this textured surface, everything can go a little bit grainy. Just looking at what the colours look like on there, because they're coming out a bit, they're looking a bit funny on the screen I'm looking at. Okay, now I need to get some of these the light as because basically what I want to do is get across the difference between the textures of the wetness of the eye, smoothness and the wetness of the eye, and then the softness of the fur. So we've got these little bits where the light is shining, like on the lower lid. But if I try to use my pastel pencil to do the light in the eye, it's quite nice. But if I want that to be a really bright light that jumps, I kind of need to use my that I don't know whether you could see the difference there. That's my little tiny shard, teeny tiny shard of white pastel that gives it much more of a jump. And now if I want to, what I need to do now is blend this wet shiny eye, make it part of the it's really hard to talk and draw at the same time. Make it look like it's sitting in the dog's head. So I need some bits of some darker colours around it. And again, I can use a bit of pastel pencil, and I've got so I've got this nice base now of these colours underneath it. I'm just here picking up, because I want to get some fine hair. I'm just picking up it's a sort of creamy pinky Conte crayon, because I just want a bit of fineness to it, and a bit of fineness down here and there where it's catching the top. And I love this feeling that you've got the hairs coming over, and all the time that I'm doing my kind of what I absolutely don't want to do is draw every hair, because that way boredom and madness lie, and I get bored very, very easily. But if I want to, he's got some lovely sort of whiskery eyebrowy bits that come up here, which I can just do with very soft bit of the black pastel pencil. So if I go back to the one I've got here, so I'm going to have to crack on time-wise. Can you see how I've pretty much done the same thing, and then I've just carried on working around it with probably with I've got like a don't know whether you can see that, am I falling off the edge? There's a whole variety of different colours I've used there. This is another grey to kind of get that added depth around the eye. And I've also put a bit of a background on it because this is actually the stage that I'd put the background on, because to get those soft, really soft and gentle hairs coming up here, I want to have the background there, because I'm never going to be able to get the background in underneath them all. So I hope that made sense. I know it's extremely speedy, but I just wanted to show you another couple of examples. You can see how here I've done a lurcher in a very similar way. Can you see how I've made that eye dark and shiny and the nose dark and shiny? But all of these marks here are done with very, very soft pastel, with a unison pastel, and then just softened out very, very gently with my hand. But I did the shiny bits underneath. The reason I'm showing you these is to show you that the way I work is very kind of, it's loose. It's about trying to find the energy and the character of the animal, rather than starting in one corner and working down and making it all very kind of all the same and very beautiful. What I'm trying to do is just capture the essence. This was done with just smudging charcoal onto the covering it with charcoal, smudging it back, and then rubbing into it. And then just a little bit of soft cream pastel over, pretty much done, yeah, with charcoal and just soft pastel, just that cream pastel. And again, that's another way that I love to sketch, because it just, to me, because there's so little of it, it just kind of, I'm trying to capture the thing. Oh, that's just a more kind of finished one. But I think, to be honest, any of them could be finished. Discuss. There's something for discussion. Right, so I'm now going to move on swiftly to show you a little bit of what I do with landscapes. Has anybody got any questions? I feel like this is happening very quickly.
Any questions, anyone?
No, okay, right. I'm not sure how much of them.
No, it's just very intensive. We are just watching and writing
well,
notes.
Normally,
writing notes.
Okay. Normally I don't just demo how to do a dog in 10 minutes. So, you know, I'm just trying to do a snippet, because personally I'd have a nervous breakdown. Yeah, let's have a quick look at landscape. The reason I wanted to just look at this, because the way I approach landscapes is so very different to the way I approach animals. And I know that some people who want to be mentored will be very keen on one subject rather than another of the subjects. And I just wanted to show that, you know, I do work in different ways. So, as I said, I'm going to be just picking, I've got a couple of sets of pastels here that I'm going to be picking my colours out of, and I think I've just got one additional green. These are sets that I have put together, partly with the help of my lovely friend Nell Watmore. We've been running the new pastel school for 10 years. Oh my goodness. And we did start putting together pastel sets because we got a bit fed up of not being able to recommend a particular set. But that's another story. Let me just check that I don't forget to say anything. I'll just have to keep looking at my notes, because I get so excited I forget what I was here for sometimes. So this is what I just want to show you here, is how I go about choosing colours to create a sense of distance in the landscape. And a quick word about photos, working from photos. So I've got various different ones here. I've got two here. This is pretty much the scene I'm going to do. But this one, I've taken a photograph and I've focused the camera on the sky. So the light meter is adjusted for the sky, but it's made the landscape itself too dark. This one I focused on the landscape. So the colours are better and the light is better on that. but you see it's bleached out the sky. And you have to be very careful when you work with photos that you don't end up with something that's very dark in one area or too light, which, to be honest, I end up with all the time, which is why I do as much sketching outdoors as I can. Nowhere near as much as I should do. Every time I go outdoors and sketch, I learn more. But also I have lots of different ones. So this to kind of remind me what it was like. And when I do paint landscapes, I only these days now like to paint from my own photos, because the photo is just a small part of what it was, what my memory is of being there. So this one has got a much softer distance because it's a much bigger jump. Goodness me, I can hear the rain coming down already. It's so there's 4 different ways that I tend to try to get a sense of distance and a sense of space in my landscapes. The first is using tone, which we call it tonal values. I think over the Atlantic you refer to it just as values. I might be wrong there, but
Yep.
yeah, okay. So because when I talk about values, I think of everything as having values. I get a bit confused. So I'm going to refer to it as tonal values and tonal contrasts, and I hope that's not too confusing. And to do this, I'm going to do it with a let me just get my pastels over here in the box. I'm going to just do a tonal ladder to show you what I mean. So that's my darkest dark. I'm just using charcoal and a cream pastel. This is just a black and white thumbnail sketch. That's my darkest dark. As I come off with the pressure, the tone gets lighter. That's my lightest light. As I come off with that pressure, the tone gets darker, and they meet in the middle in this mid-tone area. And I can use the paper, because again, I'm just using cheap sugar paper here. That's a grey mid-tone colour. I can use the paper to create the mid-tone, or I can blend them those two together then too. God, dear, here, listen to my grammar. Good job my mother can't hear me. That's what happens when you're trying to say things too quickly. So as I push for time, and this is a thumbnail, I'm going to refer to my made smaller picture here. Grammar going out the window again, because it really is hard to draw and talk at the same time. That's my excuse. So what can you see? What I'm trying to do to create this sense of space is to I'm just checking it shows up on there. Yeah. Is I'm pressing harder and making it darker at the front, and even though those trees, look on this photo how dark those trees look there, I am lightening them because I know that for them to go back into the distance, they need to be lighter than the rocks. If I make them as dark as the rocks, like that, I've now lost my sense of distance. So I'm going to lighten them up again. And if I can't lighten them up just with my finger, I'll put a little bit of, put a bit of the cream on. Now, this picture doesn't work brilliantly just as a black and white sketch, because you can't really get the feel for what the sky is like. But what I'm just going to do is just show you that if I want these rocks to pop even more at the front, I just need to put some bit of brighter white and a brighter light in them. A little bit of mid-tone. A little bit of a, see, I'm not pressing very hard here so that I get a mistier mid-tone distance. And also notice how I'm smudging a lot here, because this was supposed to be number 4. The other way that I try to create a sense of distance is with my mark making, which is something that you can do with pastels. I have no idea whether you can do it with a brush, but I think it's one of the beautiful things about pastels. So that's my quick black and white tonal sketch. I could do with going on a course to teach me how to draw rectangles a bit better. So now I want to just show you how the other 2 ways I think about trying to create this sense of distance is with colour, and these are adjusting the saturation of the colour and also the temperature, so how warm or cool the colours are. If that doesn't make much sense to you, then hopefully it will in the next 10 minutes. So let's have a look at the blues that I've got. This kind of doing loose colour sketches and swatches like this, to me, is worth its weight in gold, because when I get onto this, which is just my little colour sketch, I'll already have really thought about what I'm doing. So can you see my colours of my sky? I just picked these out of the box, and the sky is more saturated at the top. It's not like this is the top of the world and this is the bottom. It's like this is what's above our head, this is what's below our feet, and it's going away into the distance. It's going away from us. So what's above our heads is the most saturated blue. What I mean by saturated is it's got the most blue in it. That's the only way I can describe it. So that's a blue dark to light. This is a blue that's very saturated, and this is what I consider to be a blue that's not very saturated. Now you could say that that's a grey, but if I put a bit of blue in it, it's now a blue, but it's still not as saturated as that, because it's just not as brightly blue. So if that doesn't make sense, then hopefully, again, like I said, it will soon. And I'm going to just look at the greens that I've got here, which these are the greens I'm picking out of this particular set. And can you see, they're lovely. Again, they go from dark to light, but they're all quite yellow. They're all really good for the greens down here, aren't they? They're not very good for these greens. And these greens, these hills are green. They're just a very, very bluey green, because I know that the more warm and yellow and orange and red a colour is, the more it will jump forward. But the more blue and purple it is, it will jump, it will die back. So in my set of these other colours, I can see that if I want to make these greens turn be better for the distance, if I just put a bit of blue into them, they'll still be green, but they'll start to be those bluey greens in the distance. And this is so not rocket science, but it's so easy to forget it. These are two greens I've got in the set that I call these my pepperminty greens. Can you see they're already ready-made for being in the distance? But if I didn't have those, I could mix down with the blues. So let's do our little picture again as a colour sketch. And I love doing these colour sketches because I do these for myself all the time. Before I do a big painting, I do one of these. And the beauty of doing them is that you don't have to worry about whether you're drawing your rock in the right place. You'd literally, it's like a fact-finding exercise. You're searching for what works colour-wise. That's super quick with charcoal. I need some tissue to clean my pastels. So bit of tissue, because obviously my hands are dirty, my pastels are dirty. It's all going to go pear-shaped. So those are the blues that I was looking at here. And I'm going to find my blue reference, my sky reference here. I'm not going to get carried away with the clouds because I'm taking too long. We can talk about clouds another day. If you come on the mentoring journey, we'll have a look at clouds. So I've got my three blues there, but I've also got a really nice kind of very light lilac-y colour here, which if you've been on my Zooms, you'll have come across that. And to get a feeling for the distance in the landscape, I'm bringing some of that sky colour down immediately as an underlayer, but I'm not going to do that bit till I've come down here and done this bit, because to me this is about getting the colours that are of what's closest to me first, and then blending them together to go into the distance, if that makes sense. And I can put some of these on. I know there's a lovely bit of light here coming behind the darkness of the rocks, but I don't want to put too much of these greens on without working into those. Those rocks are such a dominant feature that I feel like I need to put them in before I do the next bit. This is a very, very dark kind of grey lilac, which is actually also a brilliant colour for clouds and skies. So I'm just, as I'm drawing, see this business about mark making, I'm trying to capture the energy of the hardness of the rocks. Oh my God, there's so much about landscape painting that's just so exciting. Oh God, I could talk forever about it. So is that dark enough? It is quite dark, but there's some really nice super cracks in that which would benefit from a little bit of a extra bit of dark, I think. And because it's a sketch, I don't need to I'm just going to put that one back so that I don't lose it, because it's already dust coloured, so it disappears quite easily. Okay, so now let's have a think about those trees. So on both of these photo references I've got, I'm seeing that they are quite a dark green, but if I put them in like that, they're really too they're just not softening in, are they? So let's get some of the greens that we've already used to soften them in, and maybe one of those that's this kind of greeny bluey green color. I don't know whether it's a blue or a green, but and I've also got like a lighter version of that, which I think is going to be a really nice one for those hills. So the trees are still looking a bit too bright, aren't they? So I'm just going to bring those less saturated blues into play here, and then work some of my greens over them so that I get a gradual kind of change. Now, I don't know whether you're noticing, but I pressed very hard down here, but I'm really not pressing very hard up here. I'm just kind of wafting or dusting a little bit of the colour over them. And I think I've overcooked it now, which I do quite a lot. Trouble with pastels is that because they're so forgiving, you can keep changing it, and then of course you just then keep changing it and keep changing it, and then it's never finished. Right. Still not loving this very much. Get the pepperminty green out. And now I'm just going to come back and reinforce some of this. And then, do you remember when I up there, I because I wanted my rocks to jump out a bit, I put some light cream on. This time I'm just going to see what happens if I put a bit of that's the lilac that I used in the sky, maybe a bit of the cream itself. Another way that I can make them pop a bit is, to remember as well, I was saying there's a really light bit here. If I darken my rock down there and then put a nice bit of a bright green against it, it will I'll get a little focal point. But there's all sorts of other things going on. There's kind of like deeper greens that are shadowy down here. And if I wanted to make it even more, there's a colour that was around that I've lost now that I can't see. I think it went into this box. Hang on a minute. Yeah, if I want my foreground to come forward even more, I can use some yellows or I've got a really bright green here, which is a very sort of the green that you get when the sun comes out. So there's ways that I can make this come forward, and there's ways, and by making the other one want to go back further, I can just use more of my blues, even if I use the blues that are in the sky. And if I want it to have a little bit of, there's a lovely bit of light catching on the field there, and a bit there. If I gradually add these little, very, very gently add these little bits, a little bit of purple maybe on the fields in the distance. It's a really lovely, lovely way to just play, basically, to get a feeling for things going into the distance and also coming forward. And I was just going to show you a few more. Obviously, that's kind of like the basis of how I kind of start off when I'm thinking about landscapes. But I just got a few more here. So these are quick sketches that I've done. But can you see, because I know that the yellows are going to either come forward or pop. That was one of those days where the light was hitting the fields in the distance between the clouds. So I've used a yellow there to really draw the eye in. This one is all very much warm colours, but can you see how I've created the sense of distance with this one by using colours that are less saturated? So I've got strong lights and darks here, more of a mid-tone here, brighter greens and more marks that have been put on and not smudged, and then lots of smudging in the distance. And just show you this. So this is the one that I'm going to be doing for the Zoom thing on Monday. For those of you who don't do the Zoom things I do, if you want to come along and see the way that I teach, which will be very similar to what I'm doing with Mastrius, we're doing this autumn scene where again you've got just what I've been saying, really. I better stop talking, really. You know, the haziness and the bluiness and the less saturation in the distance. But this one's got the whole added excitement of skies, which is a whole other thing. So I'm going to stop demonstrating now, which you're probably quite pleased about, and say, if you've got any questions, if Anita, you'd like to come back to the laptop.
Yep.
Has anybody got any questions after that, like that 90 mile an hour demo? Anybody got any questions about the way I do things or about what we're going to be doing with Mastrius?
Are you talking about the surfaces? Are you using like paper, or if you use like cardboard, what sort of surface you have?
I do. Let me just put everybody on gallery view. Hang on a minute. I use various different surfaces. So here I'm just using sugar paper because it's sorry to move myself. Because it's really nice for just quick sketches, but I use textured surfaces, a textured surface that I paint on, but I also use different pastel papers as well. So if I'm showing people how I do things, I'll be using kind of the surfaces that I use, but hopefully if you have surfaces that you really like, then you'll be able to do a similar thing on those surfaces. And I will actually be really interested in what surfaces people are using, because if they are different, I'd really like to have a go at using them, because I know some surfaces like pastel matte, you can't push the pastel around in the way that I like to. So yeah, different surfaces obviously behave in different ways. So I'll be interested. What do you use mainly, Anna?
I use cardboard.
Do you?
And yes, and then I ordered this pastel primer from Jackson Art, and then I have made mixtures. Let me show you just a
Oh
couple.
yeah, because I sent you some. I should explain to you.
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
that-
yeah. That's why
Yeah,
yeah, that was
yeah,
very good.
Anna's from Finland.
Yeah.
But she's she's now living in Provence in France. But I did send her some primed surface to Finland because yeah, it wasn't so easy for her to get hold of it. Does anybody else work on particularly different surfaces? Oh, hi Olive, I didn't see you before.
I use pastel mat.
Oh,
I've just bought some UArt.
okay.
Just to try for the first time. But I'm interested in what you use for sketching. Did you say sugar paper?
I just use sugar paper, but if you use sugar paper, you have to kind of try and get a good quality one.
That's what I was going to say.
Which I buy in bulk from Sea Whites in Brighton.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, I know Sea Whites.
May
So
I
what did you
ask
put
you
down,
I first what is sugar paper?
Sugar paper. It's
Oh,
called sugar
somebody
paper.
else.
Yeah, it's
Canada.
not. It's not made of sugar. It's called sugar paper because it's what they used to wrap sugar in. Back in I remember as a child.
Okay, back in the
yeah.
old days.
Back in the old days, yeah, I think that's why it's called sugar paper because I remember they used to have like a blue one, and then they used to kind of tape it into a bag and put the sugar in it. And like I say, it's great for sketching, but it fades really quickly, and it doesn't take many layers, so it's great for that sort of thing that I've just done. But I would never do a finished piece on it.
So this is I don't know about the light here where I am now. It's not, but this is a cardboard, and it should be kind of a pinkish a bit.
Right.
But the light here is not very good. And then this is another one. This is kind of I think this is straight from the color tone of the primer, raw sienna or something like that.
Yeah, okay. Right.
But
So
yeah, I got these cardboards from Framer.
Yes, what I call
yes.
cards.
So they are acid free and good quality.
But they're quite smooth, aren't they? So I find that you need to put something on them to make a surface to then work the pastel on.
Okay, yeah. Well, this gives kind of I think this surface it's kind of like a velvet, or so. It gives a kind of but it's not like a rough. It's not like some good papers are. But have you any ideas what one could put here then to make this?
Well, that's why I use that primer. But you can also buy like gesso that you can mix in with paint. But I prefer to get that primer because it's just the right texture for me.
But this.
But I was going to say I use Canson paper as well. Canson me. Yeah, I don't know how you say it.
Do you put the primer on Canson?
No. I just use it as paper.
What kind of primer do you use, Rebecca?
It's called it's made by a company called Art Spectrum that are in Australia, and it's called Colour Fix Primer.
Okay.
We can only get it from in the UK. We can only get it really from a company called Jackson's Art, which is like our one of our big online retailers. But it's getting quite hard to get hold of because I don't really know why, but the ships seem to take a very long time to get from Australia.
Oh, yeah.
So exactly, Kay. They're paddling, but I know other people who use, is it UArt or something else that's also hard to get in this country as well. It just seems to be a bit of a problem with pastel surfaces, that as soon as you fall in love with the surface, it's then quite hard to
yeah,
get.
Fisher 400. Jackson still haven't got any Fisher 400.
It's Fisher 400 everywhere. Yeah, all the pastel kind of friends I've got, that they're all sobbing their little hearts out because they can't get the Fisher.
Oh no.
A number of them are
400.
using UArt 400.
UArt.
Right.
Some of my other tutors are using UART 400 instead of
Okay.
Fisher 400. Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, I might get myself some of that because somebody said that I think, was it UART 600 was very nice, but I don't know. I need to.
So do you find pan pastel too smooth to work with? Like it doesn't have enough tooth?
I
Or
like
pastel matte, sorry.
Oh, pastel matte.
Yeah.
Pastel matte. I don't think pastel matte and I have got a very good relationship. We because I find that when I put pastel on, I can't really move it unless I
Right.
put about 6 layers on.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I know
Mm.
artists who use it to do the most amazing work because they work in a less, not fussy way, but they just put it on directly and then just leave it and then just work over it. So I think it depends on your style. They
Mhm.
do. I mean, I know quite a lot of artists who do flipping amazing work with it, but for me, it's just too restrictive. It's like
Mhm.
it's like you're
Yeah,
trying
it
to
sticks. Yeah,
paint and
yeah.
you just keep stopping in your tracks, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
like you could tell, I like to wave my arms around a lot, and I like to move my hands around. And but then
Yeah.
I know other people who literally do mark making in a much more vigorous way or a different way, and it works
Yeah.
for them. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would never say to anybody, don't use such and such.
Yeah.
But what I would say is experiment with as many as you can, because there might be others out there, which I'm not doing, am I? Because I'm not using UART, so I need to go out, and that's my homework for myself.
Jackson's
Yeah.
actually, Rebecca, Jackson's actually do a pack.
They do a pack,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Trial
I-
pack.
Some years
Yeah,
ago,
quite like I
I
did.
got those. Yes,
Mm,
Yeah.
they're very
And
good.
yes.
it's like
And
quarter
then-
sheets, isn't it?
Yes, it
and
is. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Names
that's
all
a
on the
great
back.
idea.
Yes. I noticed, Rebecca, that you don't use shapers. Do you ever use shapers?
I don't. You mean the little things
Yes.
that are like a
The
little bit
little
rubber? Yeah.
silicone-
There's kind of 2 reasons for that. Firstly, I'm too impatient to use. Well, there's several reasons actually. Firstly, I'm very impatient, and they imply that I've got to be really detailed. But also, I hate anything. I hate using brushes. So as soon as you put any tool on the end of a stick, I don't like it. Whereas I'll use a tiny bit of a rubber in the way that a shaper is, because I can hold it in my hand. But there was another reason I don't use them. I can't remember what it is now, apart from the fact that I did buy one actually, but yeah, I've got a very small little finger, so my tiny little finger actually
arthritic one.
yeah, it's my little softening tool. But one tool I do use for softening very, very finely is a pastel pencil. So I don't know whether you've ever used a pastel pencil to soften 2 colours of pastel together. Yeah.
Yes.
So
You've taught me a lot in the last 2 weeks. Amazing.
oh, good.
I've got to learn not to draw with my pastels and start mark making.
Well, yes, I suppose
Yes.
I'd say, I mean, I think I do draw. I just draw not just with the end. So you can
That's
draw with
right.
the side
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
all the different ways you can make edges. So I think the thing about a pastel, especially one of these, is if you're just going to use that
Yeah.
for the end, it's a really blunt instrument. There's lots of other beautiful marks you can make with it
That's
that are
it.
still drawing, that aren't
Yeah.
just, and there are other things that are better or break a bit off, but that's quite tragic, isn't it? Because the more you break off, the less you've got, and they do crumble if you break them a lot. Yeah. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one question about the surfaces still. How do you choose the tone of the surface, if there is, and now I'm talking about like landscape, if there is like beautiful tones in an early morning sky, like reddish tones, and then at the same time the clouds are very beautifully kind of grayish, bluish toned, and then there is the landscape that is filled with all kinds of green tones. So what are you doing? What are you going to do?
Well, I think that's a really good question, and I think the answer is that there isn't really one answer. That you can probably use quite a few different surfaces, because the other question is, do you use a light or a dark or a mid-tone? And you'll get a different mood according to what you use. And I have favourites at the moment, but I change my favourites every few months and use a different colour. When I do my Zoom workshops, I tend to pick very neutral colours. I very often work on a grey, and that's because I know that if I work on a blue, say, lots of people won't have a blue or get hold of a blue. I've just got some examples of this to show you here, actually, if you just bear with me. So this dog that I showed you earlier, I'm hopeless at finding the camera point. So this dog I did on different colour backgrounds.
I like the blue.
Right.
I was really interested in your question for myself, what worked best, because I tend to, for animals certainly, try to work on a colour that's neutral, that's in the coat, in the shadows or in the highlights.
Yeah.
But like I said, I get bored easily, so I did start doing them on bright blue because, you know,
Well, that's really great too.
but it was actually really hard. So if you want to give yourself a nervous breakdown, have a go at that. But equally with landscapes, I tend to use quite neutral backgrounds, but then when I get bored, I do them on bright red. And I think the way I work, and I know this is not the same for all pastel artists, but the way I work, the colour of the background is part of the palette. So with this one, I did it, can't find the camera again. I did it on a colour that I knew was there already in the landscape. So you can see it showing around the edges, but it's also showing through. It is showing through, even though you probably can't tell, but that's because it sits happily. And what I do when I go out sketching is I take, I don't know, about 10 boards of varying different colours with me and just pick up the one that seems most suited
to
the scene. So you could literally try, if you've got a photo that has got lots of different colours in it, try it on 3. It's such a good exercise. Did you ever do that, Sue, at our new pastel school courses? Did you ever do? We used to get people to do the same on 2 different. It's quite. It takes you quite a long time, but if you do it as a colour sketch, it doesn't take forever.
It's just multiple choices, and and for me it's sometimes that this I find it so difficult because how would I say, I think that like a landscape, that there is already so much, and then if the surface is I don't know, I can't formulate myself now very well, but like in Finland, in spring, the sky is blue, and then there is snow, white snow, and then there are some tree trunks coming up. Easy, very easy. Blue sky, white this. But now here in Provence, like I said, the sky had zillion beautiful tones, and the clouds had another zillion beautiful tones, and then all this green. And I was thinking that how is it a question to choose that what do you see is important? Like if I choose pink, do I then think that the sky is the finest thing in this landscape, or how
well,
does
I think you just do experiments, but don't do massive paintings. That's what I'd say. I'd just do quite small sketches. Because what I find is that by doing them, I find which one I like to work on. And often it'll be the one that I don't think is going to work. 'Cause at the
Okay,
moment-
okay,
at the-
yeah.
At the moment, I keep going for darker and darker and darker surfaces to work on.
Yeah,
I don't know why. It's just that that's what works for me.
yeah. So it's not that serious.
Yeah, I think the problem with art is one of my sons is a mathematician, and he lives in this wonderful world of happiness where it's either right or wrong.
Exactly.
And we live in a world where there is no right or wrong. There's like you say, a zillion different ways of doing everything.
Yeah.
We just have to kind of try to find, which makes life a lot harder, but in a way, maybe we should just,
Yeah, kind of creative limits, to find creative limits.
Yeah, I don't think that's the trouble with creativity, isn't it? That there aren't any limits.
No, but then, but oh, this is getting philosophical.
Yes, so don't get me going,
yeah. But
I was going to say, does anybody else have any? I don't feel as though I've talked about mentoring at all.
You
Talked
have.
about.
Lovely.
So are we going to, now we are going to meet next time then 20th of November?
Yes.
Yes.
And are we going to show them some works then at that point, our own works then, like so what are we supposed to do some works ready for that, or?
I don't think so. Isn't it more, Anita, everybody introducing? I think it would be really good to have some way of sharing some work, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Usually you can, for the first session, people can upload a couple pieces just so you know kind of where they are on their pastels and see their style if you wish. And and an introduction to the group members, and then so it's really up to you. Would you like to see a couple pieces of work per group member? Just so
I would, because I think I really want to get to know people, and I think everybody fills a form in, don't they, so that I get an idea. But obviously seeing what people produce is really, really important, because it's very much part of everybody's story, isn't it?
It is.
And I think it's also really good for everybody in the group to see how different everybody else's work is. And one of the reasons that I really like the idea of Mastrius was the fact that it's a group of up to 8 people, because I happen to have been put in a group of 8 pastel artists last year, who were all professional pastel artists, and we got together, we went up to Unison, and we did some sketching that weekend, and I hardly did any sketching at all, because I was most interested in how everybody else did it. And also the fact that things that I thought were the only way to do it, because that's the way I've done it for years, I had my eyes open so much, and that's actually really healthy. So I think it will be lovely to see where everybody else is with their work, but as long as I'm going to have rules about not comparing ourselves. That's one of the important things, because everybody is on their own journey. And you know, we're all in a different place along different journeys. So it won't be a kind of showing your work in a kind of competitive way. It will be more to get to know who people are.
And support each other, and exactly.
And then maybe get some answers when you see other people's works, and so then you go, oh, that's done so well, like you said, that somebody else can solve your problem.
Exactly. And we will all learn from each other. I'm going to learn loads. I'm really very much
so
looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Any other questions?
You're very quiet, some of you.
I've got to go and get dinner now.
I'm just so excited. You know me, I'm just excited. I can hardly contain myself. So Whatever happens, I'm happy for it.
Okay, Kate, you did ask me a question about how big that picture of the dogs was that was on Facebook.
Yeah.
It was about this big by about that big.
Huge.
It wasn't huge, but if those of you, if you others don't know what I'm talking about, I put one of the things I put on Facebook on my last post about this Meet the Mentor session was a commission I'd done of 3 dogs on a sofa.
Oh, yes.
Actually, it was
Yeah,
one of those. It
that's-
was. Yeah, she was one of them. The lurcher. It
Oh,
was her and
yeah.
her family. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
oh well, thank you very much for coming. It's been. I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
it's been
wonderful.
lovely to
Thank you
see
very
you
much.
and
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
hello,
really
Julie.
looking
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
looking forward to the session.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
well,
yeah,
yes, let us know if you have any questions. Anita is obviously better at communicating online than I have been. Apologies that I haven't even said welcome to those of you who joined the group, so I'm really sorry about that. I've had a very frantic few, well, months actually, which I'm
yeah.
hoping is going to calm down, but I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yes,
So
me too.
Yeah.
Thank you very
it's
much.
lovely,
Okay.
and you others, it's lovely to see you as well. So
Thank
Okay.
you.
take care,
Thank
everybody.
you, Rebecca.
Everyone,
Thank you.
nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Bye.